Alara's life felt split in two. On the outside, she was a woman to be admired. At just 34, she was the head of a management consulting firm she had built from the ground up. Her office on the highest floor of a luxury skyscraper in Midtown Manhattan was a testament to her hard work. Clients respected her. Her employees were in awe of her. She was decisive, quick, and never missed a detail. But the moment she stepped into her home, a modern minimalist penthouse in the elite neighborhood of Tribeca, her world transformed. This was where the second part of her lived. Here, she was Declan's wife. Declan was an exceptionally handsome man. His body was perfectly toned, his skin clear, and his smile could melt anyone. They had married 5 years ago. At the beginning of their marriage, Declan had tried to start an event organizing business. But one by one, his projects failed. Investors pulled out. Clients complained. Alara, whose career was soaring at the time, comforted him. "It's okay, honey, don't force it. Maybe it's just not your path. Take a break," she had said. Declan agreed. He took a break. That break lasted for 4 years. Declan transformed into what some might call a house husband. But he wasn't the kind who cooked or cleaned. For that, Alara already paid for 2 housekeepers and a landscaper for their rooftop garden. Declan's role was to manage the household. He ensured the central air was always cool, the lap pool was pristine, and the double-door Sub-Zero refrigerator was always stocked with organic groceries that Alara had purchased. His daily activities consisted of going to the gym, playing golf using the country club membership paid for by Alara's company, and meeting his friends at expensive cafes. Alara, in her exhaustion after a long day at work, convinced herself that this was a fair arrangement. She was great at making money. Declan was great at making their life comfortable. He always greeted her with a smile. He would massage her feet while listening to his wife's complaints about a difficult meeting. Declan was her calm harbor. At least, that's what she believed. "Everything we have is ours, babe," Declan once said when Alara hesitated to sign off on the purchase of a new sports car for his mobility needs. "I'm just taking care of it for you." Alara believed him. She was too busy not to. Besides Declan, there was one other person in Alara's innermost circle, Chloe. Chloe was Alara's best friend since their awkward high school days, but their fates had been starkly different. While Alara shot up like a rocket, Chloe seemed stuck in place. She worked as an administrative assistant at a small company with a meager salary and lived in a cramped studio apartment in Bushwick. Alara felt a sense of responsibility for Chloe. She genuinely loved her friend. She often transferred money to cover Chloe's extra expenses. When Chloe got sick and needed to be hospitalized, Alara paid the bill without a second thought. When Chloe's laptop broke, Alara bought her a new one so Chloe could, as she claimed, look for freelance work. Chloe was Alara's confidante. Chloe knew everything. About Alara's annoying clients, about her demanding mother, and about how utterly exhausted Alara was. Chloe always listened with profound sympathy. "You're just too good, Alara. You carry the weight of so many people," Chloe said one afternoon, sipping an expensive coffee that Alara had paid for. "It's okay, Chloe. As long as I have you and Declan, I'm strong," Alara replied naively. Chloe often visited Alara's penthouse. She was close with Declan. Too close, perhaps. But Alara dismissed the thought. She called it the paranoia of a busy person. They were close because they were both her home team, the people who understood her. Declan often drove Chloe back to her apartment if they chatted late into the night at the penthouse. That was normal, Alara thought. Declan was just doing his duty as a good husband, protecting his wife's best friend. One Tuesday morning, the atmosphere in the penthouse felt different. Declan was up earlier than usual. He was already neatly dressed in a clean polo shirt and smelled of the expensive cologne Alara had bought him. "Babe, I have to go," Declan said, kissing Alara's forehead as she lay half asleep. Alara stirred. "So early, honey. Going golfing?" Declan let out a small laugh. A laugh that Alara found incredibly charming. "No, this is work. Remember that nickel mining project I told you about? The investors from Singapore want to meet, but they want to do it in Chicago, so I have to fly out today." Alara's eyes flew open. She sat up straight. This was big news. For the past year, Declan had often mentioned this major project. Although it was all still in the lobbying stage, Alara never asked for details. She just nodded and made sure Declan's personal account was always filled for operational costs. "Are you serious? Wow, that's amazing," Alara exclaimed sincerely. A huge sense of relief washed over her. Finally, her husband was going back to work. She would no longer have to hear the subtle jabs from her family about her unemployed husband. Yeah, wish me luck. I'm heading to the airport now. I'll probably be there for 3 or 4 days, Declan said, adjusting his luxury watch. Why so sudden? You know how investors are. They want things done fast. Good thing I'm always prepared. All the presentation materials are on my laptop. Alara got up and hugged her husband tightly. Be careful, honey. I'll transfer some extra money for you to use there, for entertaining the clients. Don't want you to be embarrassed. Just use the black card. It'll be easier for reservations. Declan smiled widely. You're the best wife, Alara. All right, I'm off. I'll let you know when I land in Chicago. Alara walked Declan to the door. She watched him get into their luxury sedan, a car registered under Alara's company, of course, and drive away. There was a pang of loneliness, but it was overshadowed by a dominant feeling of pride and relief. Alara left for work with a renewed sense of purpose. She had no idea that she had just sent her husband not to the airport, but to a second life built on her sweat and tears. She had just released the parasite to feast in another nest, a nest that she had also, unknowingly, financed. The 2 days passed in a haze of work. Alara was drowning in a quarter-end audit that consumed all her energy. She came home late, ate dinner alone at the massive dining table, and fell asleep from exhaustion. Her communication with Declan was normal, at least by their standards. During the day, Declan sent a photo that looked like a lavish hotel lobby. Checked in. Ready for the meeting this afternoon, he wrote. Alara replied with a thumbs-up emoji. That night, Declan complained. Tough meeting, babe. The clients are so detailed. Looks like this is going to take a while. I'm exhausted. Alara called him, but the call was rejected. A few minutes later, a message came in. Sorry, can't pick up. Still with the clients. It would be rude. I'll call you back. Miss you. Alara sighed. She understood. That's how the business world worked. She was actually proud of her husband for working so hard. She replied, Okay, honey, take care. Don't forget to eat. Good luck with everything. She even sent a quick text to Chloe. Chloe, please send good vibes for Declan. He's in a huge meeting in Chicago. Hope it goes well. The reply from Chloe was swift. Of course, E. I'm always praying for the best for you guys. You keep crushing it at work, Queen. Alara smiled at the nickname. Queen. She felt powerful. The third day, Friday, was hell for Alara. The auditors found a discrepancy in the figures. Her entire team was in a panic. Alara had to step in personally, tracing 6 months of transaction data. She skipped lunch and could only breathe a sigh of relief at 5 p.m. when the mistake was found a simple data entry error by a new staff member. She closed her laptop. Her head was pounding, her body ached. She just wanted to go home, take a hot shower, and sleep. Declan was supposed to come home tomorrow afternoon. As she packed her bag, her eyes fell on a brand new, sealed tablet box in the corner of her desk. It was the latest model, an addition to the company's inventory. She remembered something. Her old tablet, still in excellent and expensive condition, was in her work bag. She thought of Chloe. Last week, her friend had complained that her old laptop had completely died, just when she desperately needed it to apply for a side job as a social media admin. She glanced at her watch. It was only 5:30 p.m. The route to Chloe's apartment in Bushwick was completely out of her way, a journey that could take over an hour in rush hour traffic. Despite that, a spontaneous idea took hold. She would stop by for a bit and give this tablet to Chloe. A little Friday surprise. She also missed their light-hearted chats. She needed an outlet after such a grueling day. She wanted to share the good news about the completed audit and the prospects of Declan's project. She changed the course of her car towards Brooklyn. The traffic was congested as usual. Alara tapped her fingers on the steering wheel, humming softly to the radio. She pictured Chloe's happy face when she received the tablet. After nearly an hour, she arrived at the narrow street leading to Chloe's apartment building. It was a drab, 3-story walk-up. Alara parked on the main road, grabbed the tablet box, and walked down the street. The mixed smell of garbage and takeout from a nearby deli greeted her, a stark contrast to the aromatherapy scents in her office lobby. She climbed to the second floor. Chloe's apartment was number 7, at the end of the hall. The hallway was dimly lit. She could hear laughter and TVs from other rooms. But as she approached number 7, she heard something else. Faintly, the sound of slow jazz. Chloe was a fan of K-pop and trashy country pop. Alara shrugged. Maybe her friend's musical taste had changed. She reached the brown wooden door, its paint peeling. She knocked softly. Chloe? It's me, Alara. No answer. The jazz music continued to play. Chloe? She knocked again, a little louder. Silence, except for the saxophone from inside. Alara frowned. Was Chloe asleep? But the music was on. She tried the doorknob. It wasn't locked. The door creaked open slightly. Excuse me, Chloe? Are you in there? Alara pushed the door a little wider, and her world stopped spinning. The first thing she saw was Chloe's back. Her best friend was standing at a small kitchen counter, her back to the door, stirring something in a glass. But that wasn't the problem. The problem was what Chloe was wearing. Chloe was wearing only a small pair of black panties and a t-shirt. A faded, gray, oversized t-shirt with the logo of Pearl Jam on it. A t-shirt Alara knew intimately. It was Declan's favorite. A shirt Alara had bought him at a charity concert 5 years ago. The shirt had a small permanent pen ink stain on the left shoulder that had never washed out, despite hundreds of washes. The stain was clearly visible from where Alara stood. It was the shirt. The shirt was too big for Chloe's slender frame, hanging down, almost covering her backside. Alara's mouth went dry. Her brain spun, trying to find a logical explanation. Maybe Declan had lent it to her. When? Maybe it was a matching shirt. That ink stain. Maybe Chloe had stolen it. Chloe wouldn't do that. Before Alara could finish her panic thoughts, before she could call out her friend's name, another sound was heard. The door to the bathroom next to the small kitchen opened. The ensuite bathroom that Chloe had just renovated last month. Chloe had said she got a big bonus from her office. A man emerged from the bathroom. He was wearing only a pair of dark blue boxer shorts. His hair was wet and tousled. He yawned widely, scratching his broad chest. A body Alara knew so well. The body she hugged every night. The body she had sent off that morning with prayers for his work in Chicago. Declan. Time stopped. The sound of the saxophone suddenly became deafening. The smell of mothballs from the bathroom mixed with the aroma of the instant coffee Chloe was stirring. "Took you long enough," Chloe said, her voice playful and coddling. She turned around, holding the mug. She hadn't seen Alara in the doorway yet. Declan walked past Chloe, casually slapping his wife's best friend on the butt. God, it's sticky in here. He tossed his wet towel onto the bed. The sheets on the bed were a tangled mess. "Here's your coffee," Chloe said. Declan took the mug, but instead of drinking, he pulled Chloe into his arms. He kissed her lips deeply. A greedy, ravenous kiss. A kiss Alara had never received. Alara stood frozen. The tablet box in her hand felt like a block of ice. She couldn't breathe. Her feet were glued to the floor of the hallway. She watched her husband, the man who lived off her money, the man who had said goodbye for a business meeting, the man she was so proud of, now half naked in this squalid studio apartment, kissing her best friend. Her best friend, who was wearing her husband's t-shirt. Business trip, tough meeting, client from Singapore. All the lies exploded in her head like a bomb. The pain was so sharp, so physical, that Alara swayed slightly backward. She wanted to scream. She wanted to charge in. She wanted to rip Chloe's hair out and smash Declan's face in. But no sound came out. There was only a piercing coldness. A cold that froze her blood, turning her sadness and shock into something else. Something much darker. Something sharp. Rage. The two of them, Declan and Chloe, finally broke their kiss. They laughed. "So, how much did your queen transfer this time?" Declan asked, his voice dripping with mockery. "Enough for the next payment on my new bike," Chloe replied with a giggle. Alara didn't hear the rest. With violently shaking hands, she took a step back, very slowly. She didn't want to make a sound. She pulled the door closed again. The soft click of the knob sounded like an explosion in her ears. But they didn't hear it. They were too busy in their fake paradise. Alara turned. She walked down the hallway, her steps stiff like a robot's. She descended the stairs, gripping the rusted railing tightly. Every step felt heavy. She didn't cry. Not yet. She reached her car. She opened the door. Sat in the driver's seat. She placed the tablet box on the passenger seat. She sat in silence for a full 15 minutes, staring straight ahead. Then her phone vibrated. A message from Declan. "Hey babe, sorry, just getting back to you. Meeting's done. Went amazing. I'll be home tomorrow. Miss you so much. Love you." Alara read the message. She read the lie. She stared at her phone screen. And then she laughed. A quiet, dry, humorless laugh. It was the sound of trust shattering. It was the sound of a war beginning. She started the car's engine. She wasn't going to destroy them tonight. Oh no, that was too easy. She would take back everything, one by one, until they had nothing left to hold on to but each other. And then, she would destroy that too. She drove home to her large, empty penthouse, a plan already forming in her ice-cold mind. The drive from Bushwick back to her penthouse in Tribeca felt like crossing into another dimension. Alara drove on autopilot. The glittering lights of the Manhattan skyline, which she usually enjoyed as a symbol of a living city, now seemed like a mockery. The giant billboards displaying happy faces felt fake. She didn't cry. Her shock was too deep for tears. What she felt was a violent tremor that started in the pit of her stomach and spread to every joint. It was the tremor of rage. She kept replaying the scene in her head. The gray Pearl Jam shirt, the ink stain on the left shoulder, the dark blue boxers, that greedy kiss, the casual slap on Chloe's backside. Then their voices, the most hurtful part. So how much did your queen transfer this time? Enough for the next payment on my new bike. Her queen. They called her queen, not as a compliment. It was a derogatory nickname. She was the foolish queen who toiled away, providing the castle and the gold, while the court jester and the treacherous lady-in-waiting partied behind her throne. She was a walking ATM to them. She remembered all of Chloe's sacrifices. When Chloe cried because her mother was sick back home, it was Alara who transferred thousands for the surgery. When Chloe complained that her apartment building was unsafe, it was Alara who offered to pay the security deposit for a modest apartment, an offer Chloe refused, claiming she didn't want to be a burden. Alara now realized that was a lie, a way to remain free to meet Declan in their nest. And Declan, her husband, the man she had defended fiercely in front of her family, the man whose loyalty she had boasted about to her friends, the man whose entire life, from the imported pomade in his hair to his limited edition golf shoes, was 100% funded by Alara. The man who said he was going to Chicago for work. The lie was so perfect, so structured. This wasn't a one-night mistake. This wasn't a moment of weakness. This was a long-term plan. They were two parasites, eating her from the inside out. Chloe's bathroom renovation. A big bonus from the office. Alara laughed dryly in her car. Bonus from where? It must have been the client entertainment money she had just transferred to Declan 3 days ago. Her car pulled into the driveway of her building. The penthouse was dark except for the garden lights on the terrace. Her housekeeper had already gone home. Normally, she hated coming home to an empty penthouse when Declan was away. Tonight, she was grateful. She needed time before the mask had to be put on. She entered the penthouse. The cool air conditioning greeted her. Silence. She placed the tablet she never gave away on the long marble dining table. She walked past the living room. She saw Declan's golf clubs leaning neatly in a corner. She saw the shoe rack filled with Declan's expensive sneakers. She entered their master bedroom. Their bathroom was larger than Chloe's entire studio apartment. It had a jacuzzi they rarely used. She stood in front of the large mirror in the walk-in closet. She stared at her reflection. A successful woman, hair in a neat bun, an expensive blazer, slightly wrinkled from a long day's work. Her eyes were red but dry. The good queen? If they wanted her to be a queen, she would be a queen. But not a kind-hearted one. She would be a queen who took back what was hers. A queen who would ensure traitors were punished. The sadness that had frozen her now melted, turning into a searing, hot energy. She would not be destroyed. She would destroy. She grabbed her phone. Declan's message was still there. Miss you so much. Love you. A wave of nausea washed over her. She almost threw the phone at the mirror, but she held back. That was a foolish move. Emotion was a luxury she couldn't afford right now. She needed a strategy. She took 3 deep breaths, forcing the muscles in her face to relax. She had to play the game. If they could act for this long, so could she. Her act was just beginning. She typed a reply. Just got home, honey. So tired. The audit was brutal. I miss you too. She added a red heart emoji. Her finger trembled as she hit send. Not even 5 seconds later, her phone rang. My husband, flashed on the screen. Alara swallowed hard. She cleared her throat, trying to make sure her voice wouldn't waver. She pressed the answer button. Hey, babe. Declan's voice was warm and a little tired. A fake voice. Hey, honey. Why aren't you asleep yet? Alara replied, her tone deliberately flat, feigning exhaustion from work. Not yet. Just finished up. Man, babe, these Singapore clients are incredibly detailed. But my presentation was flawless. They loved the concept. Declan chattered on. Alara sat on the edge of their bed, the bed she had bought. She listened to the lies flow so smoothly. "Oh yeah, that's great news," Alara said. "Yeah, they were really impressed with the financial projections. I think it's 90% a go, babe. This is a huge project. God, I'm so happy. I can finally prove myself to you, to everyone." Alara closed her eyes. Financial projections. She remembered helping Declan put that presentation together 2 months ago, thinking it was just a practice run for him. She had no idea it was a tool to deceive her. "Wow, that's amazing, honey. I'm so happy for you," Alara said. Her voice almost broke, but she managed to turn it into a sound of false emotion. "I'm so proud of you." On the other end, she could hear Declan's satisfied laugh. He was probably lying on Chloe's bed. Maybe Chloe was right next to him, listening to this conversation, stifling her own laughter. "Thanks, babe. It's thanks to your prayers, too. Okay, I'm going to get some rest now. I'll take a flight tomorrow afternoon. Should be home in the evening. Don't work too hard, okay? Go straight to sleep." "Okay, honey. You get some rest, too. Love you, Alara." There was a split-second pause. Alara had to say it. She had to. "Love you too, honey. Be safe tomorrow." She ended the call. The moment the connection was severed, the mask cracked and fell to pieces. Alara no longer held back. She buried her face in a pillow and screamed with all her might. A silent scream filled with disgust, heartbreak, and immeasurable rage. She didn't sleep that night. After her fury subsided into a cold ember, she got up. She didn't go to the bathroom to wash her face. She went to her home office. She turned on her laptop. Her sharp mind, the mind she usually used to win billion-dollar contracts, was now working at 100% for a single purpose: revenge. She opened all her bank accounts. She opened her company's legal documents. She began to formulate a plan. This war would not be won with screams and tears. This war would be won with numbers, data, and the law. If Declan and Chloe thought she was a foolish queen, they were sorely mistaken. They had just awakened a dragon that had been sleeping peacefully on its throne. And this dragon was now very hungry. Saturday morning, Alara hadn't slept a minute. Her eyes were red, but her mind was clearer than ever. By 9 a.m., she was sitting in a lawyer's office. Not a divorce lawyer. She was meeting with Arthur Cole, a top corporate lawyer who specialized in business disputes and hostile takeovers. Arthur owed her a favor from an old case. "Good morning, Miss Vance. It's unusual to see you on a Saturday." "An urgent issue with the company?" Arthur asked, offering her a cup of black coffee. Alara didn't touch the coffee. She looked Arthur straight in the eye. "I want a divorce," she said flatly, devoid of emotion. Arthur was surprised but quickly put on his professional face. "Of course, I can recommend an excellent family law colleague." "No," Alara cut him off. "I want you to handle it. This isn't a normal divorce. This is an asset cleansing operation. I want my husband, Declan Murphy, out of my life, with nothing but the clothes on his back." "Actually, no, I bought those clothes too." Arthur leaned back. This was interesting. Alara told him everything. Concise, factual, without a single tear. She explained her position as the sole breadwinner. She explained that Declan had no income. She mentioned their vague prenuptial agreement, which she admitted she had signed in a state of blind love, but its terms clearly separated premarital and individually earned assets. She recounted her discovery in Chloe's studio apartment. "I don't care about a broken heart, Arthur. That's my business. I care about my assets, my money. He lives off me, and he used my money to finance his affair with my best friend, whom I also frequently supported financially," Alara continued. "This is infidelity and actionable fraud," Arthur said. "We can pursue him both criminally and civilly. With this evidence, we can build a strong case for grand larceny under New York penal law." "I like the sound of that," Alara said. "But first, I need irrefutable proof, not just for the court, but for me." "Private investigator," Arthur said immediately. "I have the best. He works fast." "Do it. I want him on it today." The targets are Declan Murphy and Chloe Sanders. Studio apartment number 7, M Street, Bushwick. I want photos, videos, audio recordings. I want to know where else they go. I want to know every dollar my husband gave her. "Done," Arthur said, taking notes. "Second step. Assets." "That's my part," Alara said. "I'll handle it today. I just need you to prepare the legal notices and documents to seize the company assets he's using. His car." "The car," Alara confirmed, "and all supplementary credit cards." The meeting ended at 10:30 a.m. The private investigators team was already on its way to Bushwick. Alara went home. She had a few hours before Declan's return from his fake Chicago. She sat in her home office and opened her laptop. This was her battlefield. She opened their joint account, the account she used to transfer money for monthly expenses, housekeeper salaries, and bills. She never checked the details. She just made sure the balance was always topped up. Now, she checked it. Line by line. Her eyes narrowed. There was a pattern. Every month, besides the normal bills, there were several transfers to an account under the name Chloe Sanders. The amounts varied $500 here, $1,000 there. The descriptions were always vague. Project costs, materials deposit, refund. Then she saw a large transfer from 3 months ago, $2,000. The description: renovation advance. Chloe's bathroom renovation. And 3 days ago, 1 hour after Alara transferred the $5,000 for client entertainment to Declan's personal account, there was a $2,500 transfer from Declan's account to Chloe's. The description: project capital repayment. The Singapore Nickel Project. Nonsense. It was all an elaborate charade to drain her money for his mistress. The pain returned, but this time it was mixed with disgust at her own foolishness. Alara's fingers moved swiftly across the keyboard. She transferred 99% of the balance from the joint account to her primary business account, an account to which Declan had no access whatsoever. She left only $500 in it, enough for a single tank of gas. Second step: credit cards. She called her bank's priority service line. Hello, good morning. I'm Alara Vance. I need to report a lost wallet for my supplementary cardholder Declan Murphy. Yes, all of his cards. The Amex Black Card and the Visa Platinum. Please block them permanently, immediately. Yes, permanently. Do not issue replacements. Thank you. One call. All taps for instant cash and credit were cut off. She checked the time. It was noon. Declan sent a text. Landed at JFK. Traffic's a nightmare. Looks like I'll be home around 4. Okay, honey. Drive safe, Alara replied. She added a kiss emoji. Then she took a shower. A long, hot shower. She scrubbed her body until it was red, as if trying to wash away the traces of Declan's lies from the house. She put on her best clothes and elegant lounge dress. She put on makeup. She wanted to look perfect. She wanted to look like a queen awaiting the return of her hero. At 4 p.m., the sound of the luxury sedan was heard in the garage. Alara's heart pounded. This was her test. She had to pull it off. The front door opened. Declan walked in, dragging a small suitcase. He looked tired, but his face was beaming, exactly like a man who had just closed a major business deal, or a man who had just spent 3 days in his mistress's bed. Babe, I'm home, he called out. Alara emerged from the kitchen, carrying a glass of cold orange juice. She smiled, the widest, most fake smile she had ever produced. Welcome back, honey, she said, her voice soft. Tired? Declan dropped his bag and immediately hugged Alara, burying his face in her neck. Alara closed her eyes tightly. She caught a faint scent. It wasn't Declan's cologne. It was the scent of soap. Cheap, jasmine-scented soap. The same scent she had vaguely smelled in the hallway of Chloe's building. She resisted the urge to push the man away. Instead, she returned the hug. How was the trip? Did it go well? Oh, it was a huge success, Alara, Declan said, releasing the hug and looking at her with sparkling eyes. Declan then sat on the sofa and began to tell his story. He spun a detailed lie about a meeting room in a 5-star hotel in Chicago, about a dinner with an investor named Mr. Tan, about how impressed they were with his data. Alara sat across from him. She nodded. She smiled. She asked questions at all the right moments. Wow, that's really great, honey. So when are they transferring the funds? She asked, feigning enthusiasm. Soon. They're handling the administrative stuff in Singapore. Should be some news next week? This is going to be our turning point, babe. Our turning point. Alara nearly laughed. Go take a shower. You must be exhausted. I asked the housekeeper to prepare a hot bath. Then we'll have dinner. I cooked something special, Alara said. She was lying. She had ordered expensive Japanese food from an app. You're the perfect wife, Declan said, kissing her forehead before heading to the bedroom. Alara remained on the sofa. Her smile slowly faded. She stared at her husband's back. The parasite had returned to its nest, comfortable, safe, and completely oblivious. Her phone vibrated softly, a message from an unknown number. It had to be the investigator. She opened it. There were 3 photos. The first photo, Declan's car parked on the street near Chloe's building that afternoon. So, he didn't come straight from the airport. He made a stop first. The second photo, Declan and Chloe in a tight embrace in front of the apartment door. A farewell kiss. The third photo, a close-up of Chloe's face. She looked sad to see Declan leave. Then, a text message. Target 1 just left location 2 at 2:30 p.m., heading to primary location, your residence. We will continue surveillance on location 2. Alara deleted the message and the photos instantly. Babe, where's my towel? Declan shouted from the bathroom. Alara took a deep breath. She stood up. Her mask was back on. Coming, honey. I'll get it for you. She answered, her voice cheerful. The game had just begun. That weekend was the longest hell of Alara's life. She had to go through the motions as if nothing had happened. She had to sit at the same dining table with Declan, listening to his plans, which Alara now knew were fake about the nickel project. Declan, feeling triumphant with his lies, became exceedingly attentive. He tried to hug Alara more often, offered massages, and attempted to initiate intimacy in the bedroom. Alara gently rebuffed him. She used the strongest excuse a woman has. I'm on my period, honey. The cramps are killing me, she said, her face made to look as pale as possible. Declan accepted the excuse without suspicion. He was only slightly disappointed, then went back to being busy on his phone. Alara knew exactly who he was texting. He was surely placating Chloe, reporting that the Queen had been successfully deceived and that the fresh funds he had stolen from Alara were safe in their hands. Alara let him. She counted down the hours. While Declan relaxed by the pool on Sunday, Alara locked herself in her home office, pretending to finish up the audit. In reality, she was on a video call with the private investigator she had hired. I have enough evidence of the affair, sir, Alara said coldly, her eyes fixed on her laptop screen. The photos at the apartment are clear. I have the recording of their conversation about your queen. Now I want us to change focus. Focus on what, ma'am? The investigator asked. Chloe Sanders. I want you to investigate her workplace. She's an admin at Sterling Maritime Logistics. I want to know all her activities there. I don't care if she's cheating on her work hours. I'm looking for a professional loophole. Minor corruption, fraud, anything. Find it. The investigator nodded. She handles reimbursement claims and petty cash for the operations division, ma'am. That's a high-risk area. Good, Alara said. Look there. I want the results by Tuesday at the latest. Monday morning, Declan seemed a bit annoyed. He complained that when he tried to buy a new protein shake at the mall the day before, his card was declined. I totally forgot to tell you, honey, Alara said, spreading jam on her toast. The bank called on Friday afternoon. They said there was some suspicious activity on the main credit card, so they temporarily froze all connected cards, including your supplementary one. They're looking into it. Be patient, okay? This was the first lie in her asset freezing plan. She had to do it in stages. Declan grumbled but believed her. Well, get it sorted out quickly, babe. I need that card for project operations. Of course, honey, Alara said sweetly. Declan left, saying he was going to the gym. But Alara knew from the GPS tracker the investigator had placed in his car that he was heading straight to Bushwick. As soon as Declan was gone, Alara called Mr. Henderson. Mr. Henderson was the CFO at Sterling Maritime Logistics, where Chloe worked. It was Alara who had gotten Chloe the job there a year ago, recommending her to Mr. W. Henderson as a trustworthy old friend. Good morning, Mr. Henderson. Sorry to bother you. This is Alara Vance. She greeted him warmly. Ah, good morning, Miss Vance. What can I do for you? It's a surprise to hear from you, Mr. Henderson replied. Well, sir, I just wanted to ask about Chloe Sanders, my friend I recommended to you. How is her performance? I hope she hasn't been a disappointment. This was the bait. Mr. Henderson chuckled lightly. Oh, Chloe. She's a diligent kid, Miss Vance. Very efficient. Though, to be honest, I've noticed her lifestyle has changed a bit recently, but as long as the work gets done, I don't pry. Changed how, sir? Alara pressed. Well, you know what an admin's salary is here, but her fashion is expensive now. She often orders lunch from high-end restaurants. I just figured she either got an inheritance or has a new rich boyfriend, Mr. Henderson said, treating it as light office gossip. Alara smiled coldly. A new rich boyfriend. Yes, her husband. Using her money. That's actually why I'm calling, sir, Alara said, her tone shifting to serious. I'm a bit concerned. As the one who recommended her, I feel responsible. I've heard, and this is just a rumor, sir, but I've heard she might be having some financial trouble. I'm worried she might be getting too creative with the office finances. On the other end, Mr. Henderson went silent. The words creative and finances were alarm bells for a CFO. What do you mean, Miss Vance? I'm not accusing, sir. I'm just worried. Your company is pursuing its ISO certification, so I know the audits must be strict. It might not hurt to double-check the areas she handles. Reimbursement claims, catering vendors, small things like that. I just wouldn't want your good name or mine to be tarnished by a small oversight. Alara knew she had pushed the right button. Mr. Henderson was a man who cared deeply about his reputation. Thank you for the information, Miss Vance. I appreciate your concern. I will look into this immediately, Mr. Henderson said, his voice now stiff and formal. The call ended. The hook was set. Tuesday afternoon, the private investigator sent his report. What he found was exactly as predicted. Chloe wasn't smart. She committed fraud in a crude way. She had a deal with a small catering vendor. The vendor would bill the office for 50 boxed lunches at $50 each, but only deliver 30 boxes worth $30 each. They split the difference. She also collected fake gas and taxi receipts for transportation claims, adding a zero to the end of the amounts. Alara took the data. She didn't need to use it. She knew Mr. Henderson would find it on his own. Wednesday afternoon, hell broke loose at Chloe's office. Mr. Henderson, suspicious after Alara's call, had ordered a surprise audit specifically for Chloe's division. In less than 24 hours, the internal audit team found everything: the catering scam, the fake receipts, the marked up invoices. The total amount over the past year was nearly $100,000. Chloe was busy replying to a text from Declan when two security guards and the HR manager approached her desk. She was asked to come to the main conference room. There, Mr. Henderson sat with a face red with rage. Spread before him was all the evidence: the fake receipts she had submitted, copies of the inflated catering invoices, and her bank statements showing regular transfers from the vendor. Chloe went pale. "Can you explain this, Chloe?" Mr. Henderson barked. Chloe tried to deny it. She said it was a data entry error. She said she was being framed, but Mr. Henderson was already furious. He felt his reputation was at stake. He felt fooled by a woman recommended by an important business connection. "We are not stupid," Mr. Henderson said. "This is embezzlement. This is a criminal offense. Do you know what the punishment for this is, Chloe?" Chloe finally broke. She cried hysterically. She knelt, begging for forgiveness. She said she needed the money. She said it was a moment of weakness. The HR manager placed 2 sheets of paper in front of her. "You have 2 choices," the manager said in a flat voice. "First option, we call the police right now. We have you arrested for embezzlement." Chloe sobbed, shaking her head. "Second option," the manager continued, "you sign this resignation letter. In it is a statement admitting you have misappropriated funds. Your final paycheck and any severance are forfeited. We will seize them as partial restitution. After that, you leave this building and never come back. We won't report you to the police, but your employment record will be blacklisted." Chloe's face was a wreck. She had no choice: prison or unemployment with a ruined record. With a trembling hand, she signed the letter. "Clear out your desk. You have 15 minutes. Security will escort you out," the HR manager said coldly. Chloe walked out of the conference room, pushed along by her tears. All eyes on her office floor were on her. Some whispered. Some looked on with pity, most with disgust. She packed her personal belongings into a brown cardboard box. She was escorted out of the lobby like a criminal. The moment she hit the hot street, the first thing she did was call Declan. She was hysterical. "Declan, I got fired. They fired me. They're accusing me of fraud. It's a lie. You have to help me." "What am I going to do, Declan? I don't have a job." In her luxurious office, Alara received a call from Mr. Henderson. "Miss Vance," he said in a regretful tone, "I have to give you some bad news. Your intuition was correct. Chloe, she was proven to have committed large-scale fraud. We were forced to terminate her employment today." Alara put on her best shocked tone. She gasped, faking it. "Oh my God, Mr. Henderson, I can't believe it. My God, I am so sorry. I feel so ashamed for having recommended her. I sincerely apologize on her behalf." "It's not your fault, Miss Vance. In fact, you saved our company from greater losses. I am the one who should be thanking you. But I'm afraid we have to blacklist her." "I understand, sir. That's standard procedure. Again, thank you for the information." Alara hung up. She stared out at the skyscrapers beyond her window. She picked up her teacup and took a slow sip. One traitor was neutralized. Now it was time to deal with the other one. Chloe's downfall was the beginning of Declan's panic. A hysterical Chloe, now without an income, became a full financial burden on him. She called him nonstop, demanding he take responsibility. "You promised you would marry me after you divorced that queen, didn't you?" Chloe screamed over the phone. Declan was hiding in the guest bathroom so Alara wouldn't hear. "Yes, just be patient, babe. I'm trying to sort out this project," Declan whispered frantically. "Patient? How can I be patient? I was fired. I need money to pay rent at the end of the month. I need to eat. You said your project was a success. Where's the money? Transfer me some now." Declan broke into a cold sweat. He had no money. The $5,000 transfer from Alara was gone, they had already spent it. Chloe had bought a new bag, paid her bike installment, and the rest was for their leisure. He was completely dependent on Alara's credit cards, which were now blocked. He tried to calm Chloe down. "Just be patient. Alara's accounts are frozen by the bank. There's an audit. I can't get any money right now. Use your savings first." "Savings? My savings are gone paying off your debts from last time. You have to take responsibility, Declan." Chloe slammed the phone down. Declan came out of the bathroom, frustrated. He had to get money. He couldn't let Chloe go. Chloe was his escape, the only place he felt like a man. He went to Alara, who was working on her laptop in the living room. "Babe," he said, putting on his most serious face, "I need operational funds. It's urgent." Alara looked up from her laptop, her expression feigning exhaustion. "Declan, I already told you, all the accounts are frozen. This is a serious issue. It involves corporate taxes. I can't touch the business accounts. But I need it, Alara. The Singapore client is asking for progress. I have to take them to dinner, entertain them. I can't show up with no money. This is about our reputation." Declan started to raise his voice. Alara let out a long sigh. She opened her wallet. She took out 5 $20 bills. "Declan, this is all the cash I have on me. It's what's left from the grocery money. Everything else is on auto debit. Use this for now. It's just enough for gas. Don't waste it. We have to be frugal until this bank issue is resolved." Declan stared at the $100 in disbelief. He used to spend that on a single lunch. "This is it? Are you kidding me? This is not enough for anything." "Declan, please understand," Alara said, her voice now sounding fragile. "I'm so stressed trying to handle this alone. All our assets are frozen. Instead of helping me stay calm, you're just making demands. Don't you think I'm worried? We are in a crisis." Declan fell silent. He couldn't argue when Alara used the "we are in a crisis" tone. He snatched the money. "Fine, I'll try to make it work." He left, slamming the door. He immediately drove to Bushwick. He had to calm Chloe down. He gave her $60. "Use this for food for now." Chloe looked at the money with disgust. $60? Do you think I'm a beggar, Declan? You're supposed to give me a solution, not spare change." They had a huge fight in the small, hot studio apartment. The air conditioning was broken, and Chloe couldn't afford to fix it. For the first time, they screamed at each other. The passion that once burned between them now turned into accusations about money. Declan went home with a splitting headache. He had to find another way. He looked around the penthouse at the luxury goods. He could sell something. He took his limited edition Rolex watch, a birthday gift from Alara. He would sell it quietly. He took it to a pre-owned luxury watch shop. The owner looked at the watch, then at its certificate. "Sorry, sir, we can't buy this," the owner said. "Why not? It's authentic. The certificate is here." "Yes, sir, but this watch series is registered under Miss Alara Vance's name, and it was reported stolen to our database this morning. She said her housekeeper stole it. If we buy this, we'll be the ones in trouble." Declan's jaw dropped. Alara had reported it stolen. He went home empty-handed. He started to realize something was wrong. He tried one last plan. He would take his sports car. It was registered under Alara's company, but it was his car. He would use the title as collateral for a temporary loan. He went to the garage. The car wasn't there. He panicked. He ran to the complex's security post. "Sir, have you seen my car, the red sports car?" The security guard nodded. "Oh, that was towed by a leasing company this morning, sir. They said there was an administrative issue." "Here's the work order." Declan read the letter. It was an order to repossess the unit from Vance Consulting, signed by the CEO. Declan ran back into the house. He didn't care anymore. "Alara, what is all this? Why did you have my car towed? Why did you report my watch as stolen?" he screamed. But Alara wasn't home. The house was empty. The housekeeper was off. Declan tried calling Alara. Her phone was off. He was truly panicking now. He had to go. He had to see Alara at her office. He grabbed the keys to the sedan he usually drove. He ran to the garage again. The sedan was also gone. All that was left in the massive garage was the housekeeper's small car. He was out of ideas. He went back inside. He needed to rest, to think. He needed to call his lawyer. But he didn't have a lawyer. That night, Alara didn't come home. She sent a text. Declan, I have to focus on cleaning up this audit mess. I'm staying at a hotel near the office for a few days to make it easier. Don't look for me. I need to focus. Declan read the message. He was alone in the big, cold penthouse. He started to feel afraid. He stayed in the house alone for 2 days. The food in the fridge began to run out. He had no cash to order food. He had no car. He was isolated. On the 3rd day, he decided to give up. He would order an Uber. He would have to borrow money from Chloe again via a transfer to pay for it and go to Alara's office. He would apologize not for the affair, but for shouting and ask for his cards to be unblocked. He got ready. He showered, put on his best shirt. He had to look like a responsible husband. He walked to the large front door. He placed his thumb on the fingerprint scanner of the digital lock. Beep, beep, beep. Access denied. He tried again. Access denied. He tried entering the manual code. His face went white. Alara had changed the code to their home. He tried ringing the video doorbell. No one answered. He was locked out. But wait, he was still inside. He tried opening the door from the inside. It opened. Oh, he had misunderstood. He wasn't locked in. He stepped out onto the front terrace to try the scanner from the outside again, thinking the device might be broken. The moment he was on the terrace, the door behind him closed automatically with a soft, solid click. He tried to open the door from the outside again. The fingerprint scanner denied him. The code denied him. He had just realized Alara hadn't locked him in. Alara had locked him out. He was wearing an expensive shirt, tailored pants, and dress shoes. He had nothing with him but his phone, with its 15% battery, and his empty wallet. He was standing on the terrace of his own home, expelled without a single word. The parasite had just lost its host, literally. He called Alara in a panic. This time, her phone was on. Alara picked up on the second ring. Hello. Alara's voice was calm and cold. Alara, what the hell is this? I can't get into the house. The code has been changed. Where are you? I'm on my way home, Alara replied. But I'm not alone. I'm with my lawyer and 2 security officers. What do you mean? Open the door, Alara. I can't, Declan, Alara said. The house is being secured. Besides, you no longer have the right to live there. Declan's heart dropped to his stomach. What? What do you mean? I mean, the divorce papers were filed in court this morning. Congratulations, Declan. You're officially homeless. Declan froze on the terrace. The phone was still pressed to his ear, but Alara had already hung up. Homeless. Divorce papers. He couldn't process the words. This had to be a nightmare. This was Alara, his wife, the woman who adored him, the woman who always gave in to his every wish. She couldn't be this ruthless. This had to be a bluff. He started pounding on the digital lock with his fists. Alara, open up! Stop joking! This isn't funny! Open the door! He screamed in front of his own house like a madman. 5 minutes later, he heard the sound of engines. 2 vehicles appeared around the corner. The first was Alara's black luxury sedan, but Alara wasn't driving. It was her personal driver. Behind it, a menacing black SUV followed closely. Declan took a step back from the door, his heart racing. The sedan stopped right in front of the main gate. The rear passenger door opened. Alara stepped out. Declan didn't recognize her. This wasn't the Alara who usually came home from work with a tired face and a soft smile. The woman standing before him wore a sharp, crimson pantsuit. Her hair was pulled back in a tight, severe bun, and her eyes were hidden behind large, dark sunglasses. She looked like a war queen, not a wife in distress. From the SUV behind her, 3 men in black suits emerged. 2 were built like bodyguards. The third carried a leather briefcase. That was Arthur Cole, Alara's lawyer. Alara, what is all this? Who did you bring? Declan shouted, a mixture of panic and anger in his voice. Alara didn't answer. She just gestured to Arthur. Mr. Declan Murphy, Arthur began, his voice flat and loud. We are here to… Declan! Declan! A panicked voice cut Arthur off. An Uber had screeched to a halt behind the SUV. The door flew open, and Chloe jumped out. Her face was swollen, her eyes puffy from days of crying. She clearly hadn't showered. She looked a mess. She ran towards the gate, saw Declan trapped outside. "Declan, why didn't you answer my calls? I need money. I was evicted from my apartment. I haven't paid. They changed the locks." Chloe finally noticed Alara's presence. She stopped abruptly. Her eyes widened in terror when she saw Alara, the lawyer, and the two bodyguards. Declan closed his eyes. Of all the disastrous timing, why did this tramp have to show up now? Alara took off her sunglasses. She looked at Chloe, then at Declan. Her face was expressionless. Then, the corner of her lip lifted slightly. A thin, terrifying smile. "Ah, how wonderful," Alara said, her calm voice cutting through the afternoon air. "The two traitors in one place. You've really saved me some time." Chloe trembled. Alara, this isn't what you think." "Quiet," Alara cut her off. Her voice wasn't loud, but it was sharp and piercing. Chloe instantly fell silent, tears freezing on her cheeks. Alara looked at Declan. "You want in? You want an explanation?" Declan nodded stiffly. Alara gestured to one of the bodyguards, who then entered a code and scanned his finger. The large gate swung open smoothly. "But there are rules," Alara continued, stepping into her property. "You two only come as far as the terrace. Don't you dare step on my marble floors with your filthy feet." Declan and Chloe followed from behind like two convicts. They stopped on the luxurious terrace. Alara sat calmly in one of the expensive rattan chairs. Arthur stood beside her. The two bodyguards stood guard at the main entrance, blocking access to the house. "Explain this, Alara," Declan urged, trying to sound authoritative, though he failed completely. "What divorce papers? Just because I got angry about the car? You're being childish." Chloe tried another tactic. She started crying again. "Alara, forgive us. If this is about me and Declan. We made a mistake, Alara. We love each other." Alara laughed. A dry, insulting laugh. "Love? Are you sure it's love, Chloe? Or is it my money you love?" Alara gestured to Arthur. The lawyer opened his leather briefcase. "All right, let's speed this up," Arthur said. "Miss Vance filed for divorce today. The grounds are adultery, fraud, and abandonment." "That's slander," Declan shouted. "You have no proof, Alara. Those are just accusations." Alara smiled again. She took a thick red folder from Arthur's briefcase. She didn't hand it to them. She threw it onto the glass table between them. The contents spilled out. Photos. Dozens of photos. Declan and Chloe went pale. They saw the pictures taken by the private investigator. Photos of Declan's car parked on Chloe's street for days. Photos of them entering the studio. Photos of them kissing in the parking lot of a cheap supermarket. "And these," Alara said, pointing to another stack of papers, "are the bank records. Transfers from my account to yours, Declan. And on the same day, transfers from you to Chloe's account. A total of $50,000. For the Singapore Nickel project, right? Or was that what you used to renovate her bathroom and buy her a new bike?" Chloe was trembling violently. She knew that money. Declan was speechless. "And this?" Alara picked up another sheet of paper. "This is Chloe Sanders' termination letter from Sterling Maritime Logistics. Reason? Embezzlement and fraud. I spoke with Mr. Henderson. He sends his regards. He said thank you for helping him clean his office of little thieves like you." Chloe swayed. She finally realized her firing wasn't a coincidence. It was all Alara's doing. You framed me," Chloe shrieked. "I didn't frame you," Alara replied coldly. "I just turned on the lights in the room where you were stealing. You framed yourself." Declan finally found his voice, but it wasn't one of anger. It was one of desperation. Okay, Alara. I was wrong. I messed up. But don't divorce me. I'm sorry. I'll break up with Chloe right now. We can fix this, babe." "Don't call me babe," Alara snapped. Arthur stepped forward. "Mr. Murphy, according to the prenuptial agreement you signed 5 years ago, all assets acquired through the efforts of Miss Vance, including this house, the cars, and the entirety of the bank accounts, are purely Miss Vance's property. Because this divorce is caused by your adultery, you forfeit any right to alimony. You leave with nothing." Declan's eyes turned red. His arrogance returned. I won't get a divorce. If you force me, I'll sue for marital assets. I'm your husband. I supported your career. I'm entitled to half of it." Chloe, hearing the words marital assets, felt a flicker of hope. Alara chuckled as if she had just heard the world's best joke. "Go ahead, please, Sue for marital assets, she said, leaning back casually. But if you choose that path, I'll choose mine. Arthur? Arthur took a second folder from his briefcase. A blue one. This is a draft of a criminal complaint, Arthur said calmly, holding up the blue folder. If you choose that path, this draft goes to the Manhattan District Attorney's office. The charges would include grand larceny for fabricating the nickel project to get $50,000, and a separate count of scheme to defraud for systematically diverting household funds to Miss Sanders. For both of you, he added, glancing directly at Chloe, that means facing significant state prison time. The faces of both were now as white as paper. Prison. They had never considered it would go that far. So, Alara said, now standing. She looked down at the two trembling humans before her. You have two choices. It's simple. Option 1. Declan, you sign this divorce settlement. Admit your adultery. You and your mistress here get out. I will not press criminal charges. You are free to leave as homeless people. Option 2. You refuse. We meet in civil court for the assets. And at the same time, we meet in criminal court. I will make sure you both rot in prison. Alara took the divorce papers and a pen from Arthur. She placed them on the table. Choose. There was no choice. It was an execution. Declan looked at Chloe. Chloe's eyes were filled with terror. She shook her head, begging Declan to sign. Prison was more frightening than poverty. With a hand that felt heavier than steel, Declan Murphy picked up the pen. Hatred filled his eyes as he looked at Alara, but fear was more dominant. He signed the papers, admitting everything, relinquishing everything. Good, Alara said. She took the papers back. One of the bodyguards stepped forward, carrying a small cardboard box. The guard dropped it at Declan's feet. That's some of your cheap underwear, a toothbrush, and deodorant. The rest of your designer belongings in the house will be donated to a shelter in your name. Consider it your last act of charity, Alara said. Now, she continued, her voice as cold as ice, get out of my house. The two bodyguards moved forward, not touching them, but hurting them with a threatening aura. Declan picked up the cardboard box with a shaking hand. He and Chloe walked backward, out of the gate of the hell and heaven that they had just lost. The moment they were both on the asphalt of the street, the ornate iron gate closed behind them with a soft thud. They were officially cast out. Declan and Chloe stood on the cooling asphalt street. The luxurious streetlights of the complex had just turned on, illuminating the two pathetic figures. Declan held the cardboard box with his underwear. Chloe carried only a small handbag with her phone and a nearly empty wallet. Silence. The sound of crickets from the manicured gardens of the surrounding mansions sounded like a jeer. So what now? Chloe whispered, her voice hoarse from crying. Declan didn't answer. He stared at the closed gate with a blank expression. His brain still couldn't accept the reality that he, Declan Murphy, socialite and husband to Alara Vance, now had absolutely nothing. Declan! Chloe snapped, her patience gone. I'm talking to you. I was kicked out of my apartment. Where are we going to sleep? The shout snapped Declan out of his stupor. But what emerged wasn't a solution. It was a rage that needed an outlet. He turned and stared at Chloe with pure hatred. This is all your fault. My fault? Chloe shrieked in disbelief. Yes. If you hadn't been so careless and gotten caught stealing at your office, we would have had more time. If you hadn't kept demanding money, I wouldn't have had to panic. You're the one who made Alara suspicious, Declan screamed. Me? You're the one who lied to me from the start, Chloe shot back, unwilling to be defeated. You said you were going to divorce her last year. You said she was stupid and easy to fool. You said the nickel project was a success. And what happened? You're a parasite just like me. The only difference is you were the main parasite, and I just got the scraps. The word parasite hit Declan harder than a physical slap. They screamed at each other on the street of the elite complex until a neighborhood security patrol approached and escorted them away, politely but firmly. They had no choice. They had to go to the only place left. They used the last of the money in Chloe's wallet to call an Uber and go back to Bushwick. Chloe had to beg her landlord, crying and handing over her only pair of gold earrings as collateral, to be allowed back in for the night with a promise to pay the overdue rent tomorrow. Apartment number 7. The place that was once their secret paradise, their passionate escape, had now turned into a hot, cramped prison cell. The air conditioner was still broken. A small, noisy fan just moved the hot air around. The smell of stale air and a clogged bathroom drain greeted them. They didn't sleep that night. They didn't touch. They sat on opposite sides of the thin mattress, their backs to each other, silently blaming fate and each other. The following days were hell. Love and passion evaporated faster than water on a hot stove. All that remained was the panic of poverty. Chloe had to find a job. But just as Alara had said, her name was blacklisted. Every financial or administrative company she applied to rejected her outright. Fired for fraud. It was an unforgivable sin in the corporate world. After 2 weeks of unemployment, living off the sale of her remaining cosmetics, Chloe was forced to take a menial job. She became a dishwasher in a busy diner, working from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. Her once manicured hands were now blistered and smelled of grease and old coffee. And Declan. His fate was far worse, psychologically. He had no skills. His skill was being handsome and spending money. His socialite friends, they all vanished. The news of Alara's divorce spread quickly among the upper class. The story was perfectly framed by Alara's side. She divorced a parasitic husband who scammed her and cheated with a thieving admin. No one wanted to associate with Declan. He was a social pariah. He tried selling the remaining designer clothes in his cardboard box, but that only gave him enough money for a few days of food. He had no choice. He had to work. But at what? He didn't have a decent degree. He had no work experience other than being the CEO of his fake event company. Finally, pushed by Chloe's nightly screams demanding he pay half the rent, Declan swallowed his pride. He borrowed Chloe's bike, whose payments were now overdue. He signed up to be an Uber Eats driver. A few days later, Declan Murphy, the man who once drove a red sports car, was officially wearing a delivery backpack and a helmet, weaving through traffic. Their life became a cycle of hatred. Declan would come home late at night, smelling of sweat and exhaust fumes, carrying a few $dozen, just enough for cigarettes and instant noodles. Chloe would greet him not with a smile, but with a tirade. "This is all you made? How are we going to pay rent? Who's paying for the electricity? You think it's easy? It's hot out there on the street. At least you're in a kitchen, even if it stinks," Declan would retort. They would have terrible fights, cursing each other, blaming each other for their own stupidity. Apartment number 7 was now filled with negative energy. There were no more greedy kisses. There were only 2 people trapped in a poverty of their own making, hating each other because they each saw their own failure reflected in the other's face. They were miserable. They were suffering. Exactly as Alara had planned. 6 months had passed since the day Alara expelled the 2 parasites from her life. The divorce was finalized in record time. With the irrefutable photographic evidence of adultery and the signed confession Arthur had obtained on the terrace that day, the judge banged the gavel without hesitation. Declan Murphy was officially divorced without receiving a single cent. Those 6 months were a painful detoxification process for Alara. She sold the Tribeca penthouse. She couldn't stand being there. Every corner reminded her of the lies. She bought a new, stunning penthouse in a different part of the city, with an unobstructed view of the skyline. It was smaller than her old home but felt more spacious. There were no more of Declan's things cluttering the closets, no trace of Chloe in the kitchen. It was 100% hers. Professionally, Alara's business exploded. Without the financial and mental burden of Declan, all her energy, time, and money were poured back into her firm. It was like she was reborn. She took on projects she once considered too risky. She led meetings with a sharpness that left clients deeply impressed. She realized she had been holding herself back all along, dividing her focus for a man who didn't deserve it. Now, she was free. But personally, she was broken. The double betrayal from her husband and her best friend left a deep wound. She built a very high wall around herself. She became suspicious of everyone. If the 2 people closest to her could do that, who else could? She knew this wasn't healthy. The master strategist knew this problem couldn't be solved just by working harder. She started therapy. Twice a week, she sat in a quiet room with a psychologist, unpacking everything. Her need to rescue people, her need for validation that had blinded her to Declan's parasitic nature. She analyzed her relationship with Chloe, realizing how she had enjoyed the role of the generous queen, not understanding it wasn't a friendship but an unhealthy power transaction. The therapy was painful. She had to admit her own mistakes, her foolishness, her naivete, and her pride. She also began to change physically. Not like Declan, who went to the gym to look good. She started boxing. Every punch on the heavy bag was a way to release the residual anger at Declan, at Chloe, and at herself. She also took up yoga, seeking a balance she had long lost. She worked, she went to therapy, she exercised. Her life became a disciplined routine. She was strong, rich, and successful, but she was lonely. She had closed the book on Declan and Chloe. Her investigator, whom she now employed permanently for her firm's internal security, occasionally gave her an update. The reports were brief. Both targets still stuck in Bushwick. Target 2 now works part-time at 2 jobs: dishwasher and stalker at a supermarket. Target 1 is a gig economy driver, frequently seen waiting for fares near train stations. Appears much older and thinner. Alara read the reports without emotion, then deleted them. Her mission was complete. They were dead to her. One evening, Alara was invited to be the keynote speaker at a major charity gala. The event was raising funds for scholarships for underprivileged youth. Alara, as part of her own healing, had decided to get more involved in real philanthropy, not the misdirected personal charity she had practiced with Chloe. She walked onto the stage, wearing an elegant navy blue evening gown. She spoke not just about business, but about resilience, about the importance of investing in honest human capital, about how to rebuild after your foundations have been destroyed. Her speech was honest, sharp, and full of power. She didn't mention her personal problems, but everyone in the room could feel the energy of a woman who had walked through fire and emerged stronger. After she stepped down from the stage, many people approached her, shaking her hand. She smiled professionally, maintaining a safe distance. Then, a man approached. He was different from the others. He didn't rush to hand her a business card. He waited patiently until the crowd thinned. He looked to be in his late 30s, with a calm demeanor, dressed in a well-tailored suit that was understated but clearly expensive. He wasn't as handsome as Declan, not in that flashy way, but his eyes radiated a deep intelligence. "Miss Vance," he said, his voice calm and deep. "Excuse me, I'm Adrian." Alara shook his hand. His grip was firm and steady. "Thank you for coming, Adrian." "I should be thanking you," he said. "Your speech was incredibly resonant, especially the part about the efficiency of philanthropy. So often, people give out of guilt, not strategy. You're clearly different." Alara was a little taken aback. This man didn't compliment her dress. He didn't compliment her beauty. He complimented her strategic model for philanthropy. "What field are you in, Mr. Adrian?" Alara asked, slightly intrigued. "I'm an architect. I have a design and construction firm. We do a lot of green building projects and social infrastructure." Two sharp minds met. They began to talk, not small talk. They talked about sustainable material supply chains, about the challenges of building schools in remote areas. Alara found herself engrossed in the conversation. This man knew what he was talking about. He wasn't showing off. He was sharing data. There was no flirtation in his voice, only professional respect. After 10 minutes, Adrian glanced at his watch. "I'm keeping you. I know you're busy, but I have one proposal, if you're open to it." Alara raised an eyebrow. "I also run a small mentorship program for young architects from underserved communities. I heard you're active in a similar program for women entrepreneurs. Perhaps we could synergize our efforts. Your data on logistics could be very helpful to us." He offered his business card. It was simple, just his name, title, and phone number. "Just think about it," he said with a small smile. "I won't be offended if you say no. Good evening, Miss Vance." He gave a polite nod, then turned and walked away. Alara stood there for a moment, watching him go. She was puzzled. This was the cleanest interaction she had had with a man in a very long time. Adrian hadn't asked for anything from her. He wasn't trying to sell her anything. He was offering an exchange of ideas between equals. For the first time in a year, the wall of ice around Alara cracked, just a little. She felt a flicker of curiosity. She put the business card carefully into her clutch, not in the business card slot, but in a pocket by itself. A year later, Alara was married again. Her wedding was completely different from the first. There was no grand, lavish party at a 5-star hotel for hundreds of fake guests. Alara and Adrian's wedding took place in a private villa in Big Sur, overlooking the ocean at sunset. Fewer than 30 guests were present, only immediate family and true, time-tested friends. Alara wore a simple but incredibly elegant dress. Adrian wore a relaxed linen suit. They wrote and recited their own vows. As Adrian slipped the ring on her finger, Alara looked at the man before her. A man who was calm, stable, strong, and most importantly, sincere. A man who loved her not for what she could give him, but for who she was. Alara finally felt safe. She felt whole. A week after their quiet honeymoon, Alara and Adrian were enjoying an afternoon at a cafe in Soho. They were back to their routines, laughing as they discussed their plans for a year-end holiday. Across the street, an Uber Eats delivery driver on a bike swerved to a sudden stop, nearly hitting the curb. The driver took off his helmet to wipe the sweat from his brow. His face was grimy with city fumes, thin, and looked much older than his years. His eyes were hollow. It was Declan. He had just dropped off an order and was checking the app on his cracked phone. From an alley next to the cafe where Alara sat, a woman emerged carrying a large, leaking black trash bag. The woman wore a dirty, grease-stained uniform from a diner. Her hair was limp and tied back haphazardly. She looked exhausted and angry. It was Chloe. She worked as a dishwasher in the kitchen of the very cafe Alara was patronizing. Chloe saw Declan waiting across the street. She screamed, her voice shrill and harsh. "Hey, don't just stand there. Did you get gas yet? The guy in the next apartment is already asking for the Wi-Fi bill split. Get to work." Declan turned and shouted back at Chloe. "Shut up! I'm trying to get a new order. It's hot out here. You're so annoying." In the midst of their petty argument on the dusty street, Declan's eyes accidentally drifted up. He looked across the street. He saw Alara. He saw her sitting in the expensive cafe. He saw her laughing. He saw her glowing skin, her expensive clothes, her aura of calm success. And he saw the man beside her, a distinguished-looking man who was holding Alara's hand tenderly. Their eyes met for a split second. Declan's expression changed from anger to shock, then to a mixture of shame, envy, and deep-seated hatred. He saw everything he had thrown away. He saw the paradise he had traded for a cramped hell in a studio apartment. Alara saw him. She saw Declan. Then she saw Chloe, who was still nagging him. She felt nothing. No revenge, no satisfaction, no anger. Just emptiness. They were just two strangers she happened to have known in a past life. Chloe yelled at Declan again, telling him to hurry up and get an order. Declan, unable to bear Alara's gaze, hastily started his bike and sped off, disappearing into the city traffic. Adrian noticed Alara was lost in thought. He followed her line of sight. "What is it, sweetheart?" he asked gently. Alara turned away from the noisy street, back to her husband's face. She smiled, a genuine smile, full of happiness. "It's nothing," she answered. "Just looking at the traffic. Come on, let's go home." She took Adrian's hand, and for the first time in her life, she truly felt like she was going home.